Hello there.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast. We are wrapping up the lightsaber battle bracket today. The final four matchups are here to determine who we feel is the best lightsaber battle in the history of Star Wars. I'm your host, Mike Phillips. With me, as always, the man who's voice your narration every single week. Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. I'm excited. Final four, you said, right? We're already there.
We're ready there. We made it.
That's crazy. Time flies when you're doing a Star Wars podcast, let me tell you. But yeah, no, totally excited to be here as always. Talking Star Wars. We're finally getting down to it. I'm excited to see what you guys think.
Yep. Also here with us today, the real Sindralic at the podcast. Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing great. I'm very excited for the Final Four. I feel like the previous records, like weeks we've done, the answers were kind of obvious. Maybe one or two, or like maybe it was a little bit tough, but most of them have been sweeps. So we're finally getting to that part now where we're gonna. I don't think things are as obvious, and we're gonna see some good matchups.
Yep, that's for sure here. And Pete, people want to subscribe to the Sky Guys. They can do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys favorite podcast platform for episodes there. And the bracket may be done, but we have a little more off-season content to cover before we get the skeleton group. Make sure you subscribe to keep up with all the fun stuff we have planned for next month.
We're not dead yet. We keep going. We're like the Energizer Bunny. How long has it been? 3 years now?
Yep, not three.
Oh man. Let me tell you something. We keep going. We keep putting content out there. You guys should be subscribed so you don't miss this content. All right? It's good stuff.
Yep,
Please, we beg you. Please subscribe.
yep. And Nick, people want to follow us on social media. How can they do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, X, Threads, and TikTok.
Yep. So go to check out the social media. As you mentioned here, we get our social media comment of the week. This is from our discussion, I think, during the Skywalker region here about Pete's point about the hold on here, guys. I hit the wrong button, so let me just change this. So I'm gonna try and get you just the Safari feed. Here we go on the YouTube version. So this is a discussion we Pete had about has the sequel trilogy hurt the end of the Return of the Jedi, specifically the Luke Vader fight in episode 6. And another thing here, I'll give a comment to chat to Chris Fowler on TikTok says, yes, it hurt 100% hurt the sacrifice Anakin and Vader made, slash Vader made. Also changed it from the Skywalker saga to the Palpatine saga, right? So, piece this kind of bet you were going for here.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is also what I was going for when I ranked Empire Strike Back not as high as everyone else. I think, this changed a lot. I think it just makes it not as important. So still good, still important to Anakin's storyline specifically, but I think it's not the Skywalker saga. I think I agree with the commenter there. I think it's more the Palpatine, saga because he's just been in all of it. So
Yeah,
it's definitely a good take. I like it.
yeah, Nick. It looks like there's like a little bit of a debate here. So it's not just everybody saying, "Oh, like the sequels suck." I like that there's actually like discussion, like counterpoints here compared to like just like flaming we see in some of these posts.
Dumb. Some of the comments are saying that, mostly aren't, though.
Yeah.
Mostly are saying how this just, which we all know, lack of planning, which blows my mind for such a large corporation, but lack of planning led to the demise of this trilogy.
Yep, it did. And Nick, we have a little Star Wars news this week. So what do you got?
David Lowery, who is directing one of the episodes of Skeleton Crew, announced that he is featuring the Tech species. I could tell me if I'm wrong.
I think it's Teak, I'm pretty sure.
Um, from the 1985 TV movie Battle of Endor for his episode. And they look like, you ever see the show Dinosaurs?
Yes.
They look like they belong in there.
Yep.
I don't really know how to explain what they look like. Almost like, I don't even want to call a picture of it. They kind of look like a mixture of a Wookiee and an Ewok, maybe.
Yeah, I'll try and pull one up here because I do know that I saw this. It reminded me of the Abominable Snowman a little bit.
But they're kind of small, right?
I know it's like a little bit of like a lemurish kind of creature here. So I'm gonna
It's
pull
a
that one up
weird,
here.
it's a weird creature.
Yeah, it's right here on the screen for the YouTube people.
Yeah, he has like I don't know, he kind of looks maybe like an old Ewok is actually what I would think they'd look like, but I guess it's a different species entirely.
Yeah, so Pete, we went from polling from 1995, 1979 Han Solo novels and Acolyte to 1985 TV movies for Skeleton Crew. So we're going way down the rabbit hole for some of these things.
We are, and that's okay. I embrace it. bring it on. Let's see something different. Well, maybe not different since they're pulling from something that's already been created, but I say why not? Let's see how it goes. If it's done well, I don't care. Put whatever character you want from whatever property that you have that's Star Wars.
Nick, if I remember correctly, Basil had one of the highest Q ratings out of the entire Acolyte show.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I think this movie is canon, by the way.
I don't know if it is.
Well, when I look at the species on Wikipedia and I go to appearances, there's a separate section for non-canon appearances. This does not fall under non-canon appearances. It falls under appearances, which leads me to believe it is canon.
Well, I went to Star Wars looking. They have it listed at the top as Legends articles, so I would assume he's Legends.
That is strange. That is, I mean, I think it should be Legends for sure, but the way it's listed on Wikipedia, you would think that it means it's canon.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll
It's
see
really
what happens with him. But what else we got?
Next is Marvel announced a new comic series called Star Wars Jedi Knights that is set before the prequels. It will feature Qui-Gon, Yoda, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, and more. And will also introduce some new characters.
Would you have any interest in this comic book, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm running to the store to buy it, but I would have some interest to seeing if they, throw some digital teasers out there or, just curious. Um, Not at the forefront of my brain though.
All right. That all we got, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, if I was a comic fan, I would probably purchase it. Just that's not what I do with my free time, so I'm gonna sit this one out.
All right. So I think that's it for the news department. Is that correct?
Yep, that's it.
All right. So now we get to our order of business today, the final four here. So we have four lightsaber battles left. Duel of the Fates, #1 overall seed. They got Ahsoka and Vader from Rebels, the only animated duel make it through here. Then we got Obi-Wan and Vader, the Battle of the Heroes from Revenge of the Sith against Luke and Vader's about episode 6, the only non-1 seed to get through here. So fun scenario here this week, Pete.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm curious to see how this goes.
Yeah, so I think since we kind of covered in detail all of these battles over the last few weeks, there's no point in doing that again. So quickly just discuss here Duel of the Fates. Pete, tell me why it got here.
I mean, I think it. Whoa, hang on. I'm sorry. It just went blue.
All right.
Um, so I think it got here just because it's so iconic. And it's also just a really good battle. I don't think it just holds the iconic weight. The score was phenomenal. You immediately know what battle is when you hear that. The score, the scenery was great. The overall choreography was great. And it makes you want more of Darth Maul.
Yes.
I think forgive me, I'm terrible at actors' names.
Ray Park.
Ray Park. Yeah. So I think we want more live action, right? I think we want him more. And I think that this was the start of wanting more Darth Maul. We get him in the animated series, but this was definitely something to remember. The dual lightsaber was the first of its kind for us, going to the movies, seeing it. So yeah, I mean, it's like, how could it not get to the final four?
Yeah. And Nick, I think the case for this one to win is very obvious. Sort of like, as Pete said, iconic score. You listen to the music, you know exactly what battle is happening. It's probably the template that every show has tried to follow. I know in the Acolyte, they said they were trying to live up to Duel of the Fates. We know that this is a very big story point because the whole fate of Anakin Skywalker basically is decided by this battle. So I think very strong reason why it's the #1 seed and why it's the favorite to win it all today.
Absolutely. This is one of the most iconic battles in all of Star Wars. I think everyone remembers, as long as you were old enough, you remember your first time seeing it. And what else is there to say about this battle? It is, the choreography, the atmosphere, the score, what it means for this franchise. It's top of the list everywhere. It doesn't get much better, and that's your reason for why you'd put it through. Give me a reason why it wouldn't go through. Really, I can't really think of any negative with this battle.
Yeah, hard to imagine anything negative here, Pete, because like you could think of any different version of this one. There's like so many different parts of this lightsaber duel. Like you can remember different things having being really cool for it.
100%. Very memorable, and it's important to the story too. So like we've mentioned 1,000 times, iconic.
All right, so next up here, Ahsoka and Vader from Rebels. This is the only animated battle to get through with the number one seed in what Nick has termed as a weak region in the bracket. So, Nick, I'm gonna give you the job here. Then tell me why this one got here.
This one got here because the region it was in was terrible. It was worse than the American League in 2024. It it was a bad region, and this is not a bad battle by any means. This is a top. Do I dare? Excuse me. Do I dare say top five battle? I don't know, but it's close to it, and that's why I got here. Not just because of how bad the region was. It was also pretty good at its job. You know what it had to do, and what happens at the end outside of the battle itself is one of the reasons that it gets here.
Yeah, and Pete, you want to make the case why this one could be the winner here? Why would you consider the only animated lightsaber battle the best in Star Wars history?
I think it's tough. I think I don't know if I can tell you why. The only thing I would say that would make it better than Duel of Fates is that the Anakin Ahsoka connection and what that means to the story. Also, choreography it has like an advantage because it wasn't motion captured. This was pure animation, so they could do things that the human body can't. So those are the two things I think would give the leg up on Duel of the Fates is that connection between the characters and also just the choreography as a whole.
Yeah, I do think that connecting the characters is also worth mentioning here because, like, if you're a Clone Wars fan and you've seen the relationship between Ahsoka and Anakin Skywalker here, like, this is kind of the payoff to it, Nick, where you see the whole situation with Ahsoka realizing that Vader is Anakin. She cuts his mask off. She tries to reach out to him. He rejects it. Like, that does add some appeal to this battle.
It does, and that's fantastic. It really is. It's the payoff of what you were waiting for, and it hits really well. They do a great job with it. Now, why would this battle not get through? Which is the same thing I asked about Duel of the Fates, and I have a couple reasons,
Yeah.
which is why it seems obvious to me which one's going to advance to the finals between this and Duel of the Fates. One of those reasons being, I think Pete had mentioned, it's motion capture versus just
And
pure animation choreography that definitely takes away. And then also, was there anything in the battle that was like so cool that you remember, or was it more of just a moment?
yeah,
Of course, obviously the helmet part, but like, was the choreography even in animation? Was it so spectacular? Like, wow, look how cool that is.
yeah, I know you brought up last week. The one shot I remember is the shot at the end where like she's got the two lightsabers behind her head holding it,
Yeah,
Vader off when
really
she's
all I remember, and that's not that cool.
yeah.
Is this the same battle that Vader shows up on top of a TIE fighter?
Yep, and this like smacks Ezra around real quick.
That is pretty cool that he's on top of a TIE fighter, but it's not like a reason that I would think, yeah, this has to be toward the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. So I think it's time to vote. I think is it pretty gonna be pretty much unanimous that Duel of Fates gets through here, guys?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, so clean sweep for us here. And Nick, I believe this was the matchup from the people's bracket as well. Was this against Duel of Fates? Were they with us, the audience?
And so they were, and they were with us 100%.
100%. So a clean like stomping of this battle here.
Yep, 100-0.
Goodbye to the animated side of the Star Wars lightsaber battle bracket. It was fun to have you.
Yep, goodbye.
All right. Next up, the other one here. Battle of the Heroes from Revenge of the Sith against Luke and Vader from Return of the Jedi, the quote unquote Cinderella of this bracket in our sense here. So I'll still like Battle of the Heroes here, just in terms of impact to the entire Star Wars story. This has everything you want in it. It is really interesting to see how this got here and seeing the emotion, the acting out of both Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor when they do it, the incredible lengths that the battle goes through, every memorable section of it. I think there's a lot here. So I think for me, the reason this gets through here is like you get all the cool choreography from Duel of the Fates, plus you also get the importance of the story that I think is the only thing here that can top Duel of Fates' story importance here. So Pete, what do you think?
I'll say it. This is the most important lightsaber battle of the 9 episodes that Star Wars has given us. Um, I'm sure that's gonna be hated on Twitter and everywhere else. However, this is the most important. Um, you see the fall of Anakin Skywalker and the rise of Darth Vader really here. You see Obi-Wan realizing he's losing someone he called a brother to the dark side, and everything is going to change from now on. And the character development there is probably the best character development we've seen in Star Wars. For me, it's hard to topple it. I got to be honest with you. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Nick, what do you think?
I think that this one advances fairly easily as well. And when we started this bracket, we all had these two in mind, the ones that are going to meet in the finals. Let's just say that. But um, this is, as Pete mentioned, and I'm going to mention a little differently. It's like the ultimate battle of the prequels, and the prequels were the ultimate battle trilogy, if you will. The originals were a little bit older. It was harder for the choreography, obviously, and they didn't have that sort of technology. And the sequels went with a more realistic take on the battling, whereas the prequels were the battle trilogy, and this was the ultimate battle of the ultimate trilogy in that sense. So hard to not have it on here. This is what we waited for. These, father versus son, teacher versus student, whatever you want to say, and so much going on.
Yep. Speaking of father versus son, that's the opponent here. It's the Luke Vader in Return of the Jedi, not Empire Strikes Back. That's not the one we put through here. So, Pete, tell us why. Remind the audience why we put this one through here 2 weeks ago.
I think we put it through because of the criteria, right? I think that the battles it was going up against did not meet the criteria as well as this one did. Don't think it's making it through though. I think that my thoughts about it last week when we spoke about this rings true today is that this battle lost so much importance because of what they did in the sequels. I think that the Battle of the Heroes is still legitimate. Nothing is retconned there. Nothing has changed there. We see that demise of Anakin. We see that progression. Luke versus Vader, we see those characters pretty much just get thrown to the side in the continuation of the saga. So I think that's where I think it meets its demise.
Nick, make the case. Why should this one win?
I think the case that could be made, and I'm not making this case, I am playing devil's advocate,
Yeah.
is that this is one of the only battles that we've listed on this entire bracket where you really don't know who's going to win at all when you're watching it for the first time,
Yes.
assuming you watch these things in release order.
Yeah.
And that definitely goes a long way. That means something. And you're watching this, you really don't know. Is Luke going to turn bad? And you doubt it, but it could happen. Is Vader going to die? Is Vader going to sacrifice himself to save the Emperor? Is he going to sacrifice himself to save Luke? You don't know what's going to happen. Is the Emperor going to kill both of them? Are they going to kill the Emperor and rule the galaxy? You don't know what's going to happen. Whereas in Battle of the Heroes, you do know they're both going to survive, and you're 90% sure, even say 99% sure, that this battle is the cause of why Anakin has to wear that suit. We find out, of course, that's why, because of this battle. But I think in 2005, watching this battle for the first time, we weren't 100% sure that that was why he'd wear the suit, but it's pretty obvious considering there's fire everywhere and lava. But that's my case, is that this is the only battle that you're watching where, in my mind, I don't want to say you're more on the edge of your seat because I still don't think you are, but there's a case that could be made like, well, I didn't know it was going to happen, so it was more exciting to me.
More stakes.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't think anything to add here. So I want to put this out here. Anybody here want to vote this one over Battle of the Heroes?
I want to. I'm not going to.
Okay.
Like, I would love for Luke Vader episode 6 to make the finals. That'd be awesome. But no.
Yeah.
No, we can't. This is, like, as I mentioned, the ultimate battle, the ultimate trilogy of battling has to go through.
Yeah, Pete, you agree?
Yep, I do.
All right, so I'm gonna make it a sweep here. So 2 prequel battles made the finals of the bracket here, and The people's bracket will point out this is where they diverged a little bit. They went pure chalk, so Luke Vader 5. I think Nick, that was the one that won that one, right?
Blue Vader 5 made this area, made this section of the bracket, but the result is still the same, and it was still a 100-0 sweep.
Yeah, so the audience and us are on alignment here. So the Battle of the Heroes against Luke against the Duel of the Fates. That's the final matchup here. So do we want to start the vote yet, Nick?
Not yet. I do want to say before we move to the finals that I think what I learned so far in this process, and we're not done yet. We still have the championship, if you will, which I'm hoping isn't a sweep. Um, I think that what I learned is that this Luke Vader battle, in my opinion, is now the most underrated battle in Star Wars, and I find that interesting.
One from episode 6.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the most underrated battle in Star Wars.
Yeah,
The fact
interesting.
that we were able to get it where it is, and we had some good reasons, I think, for it. So that's all. And now we're up to what when we started this whole project, I'm sitting here thinking Battle of the Heroes and Duel of the Fates, which one's better? And everyone that I sent this bracket to, they have these two in the finals, and we'll get to people's brackets in a little bit. And everyone's telling, this is the reason we're doing this is to see what we think about these two. So very exciting time.
Anybody want to lead off?
No, but I want to go second.
Yeah.
For the championship,
Yes.
I'll lead off.
Okay.
Um, I I think we're just voting and giving a reason why.
We'll vote, give a reason why.
All right. So for me, it's Battle of the Heroes. I am biased in the sense that that's my favorite of all time, but I think that I have the facts to back it up. Choreography, I think, is phenomenal between the two. You can make the argument that Duel of Fates, you have 3 subjects versus 2. A harder lightsaber to use by the actor. I will agree 100% with that, but I do think the choreography and the way that they were able to use the scenery with the choreography just edges out Duel of Fates. That's not to say Duel of Fates does not have that. It does 100%. I think the importance to the story is also there. We have the fall of Anakin, the rise of Vader right there. You can make the argument that the Duel of Fates, if Qui-Gon Jinn does not die, this doesn't happen. So it's very important that this happens. But the killing of Darth Maul comes back, right? So that kind of loses a little bit of importance. So that's a toss up for me, but I still give the edge to Battle of the Heroes. And I think that the score beats out Battle of the Heroes a little bit, but because 2 out of the 3 criteria was Battle of the Heroes for me, that's why I'm going with it.
Nick, you wanted to go second.
Yeah, and it's perfect that I want to go second because I'm going with Duel of the Fates. So we're tied, and Mike, you'll do the tiebreaker. This is great. My reason is the score, number one. I think the atmospheres are both phenomenal. I don't think there's really one that has an advantage over the other, but my reason for putting Duel of the Fates through as the champion Star Wars lightsaber bracket is more so about what Battle of the Heroes does wrong. And I think what it does wrong is there's way too many unnecessary sword maneuvers that are just there to look cool, and the choreography takes a hit for that for me. Whereas I think in Duel of the Fates, the choreography is perfect,
Yeah.
perfect, and the whole idea of which is more important, there's no answer. I don't think you're not wrong if you say Battle of the Heroes is more important. You're not wrong if you say Duel of the Fates. I think Duel of the Fates is more important because of what happened afterwards, and you can see where if Qui-Gon was there, things would have been different. And in Battle of the Heroes, it's almost like this is inevitable at that point. Whereas in Duel of the Fates, it wasn't inevitable.
Yeah.
And I think if you had to look at the two scores, I know we had said, I think we both had said that Duel of the Fates is a better score, but I think Duel of the Fates is much more memorable of a score.
Yeah. I agree with that. So now it's down to me to break a tie, and I think I'm actually going to side with Nick here. I'm giving Duel of Fates the win. I do think also the importance here, I think ITP makes great points in terms of all the importance of the story here. I think this sets up everything. And I also do think the fact that this came before Battle of Heroes, this was sort of a template that they tried to measure up to and say, can we live up to this in terms of choreography, in terms of score, in terms of memorability? I know the third person is interesting. I know You can argue, yes, Maul coming back kind of defeats the purpose of it, but Qui-Gon still does die. And him dying is a big deal to the whole origin of Star Wars here, because if Qui-Gon is around to train Anakin, Anakin more likely does not fall the dark side because Qui-Gon gives him the balance he needs in terms of life skills and manipulate his emotions. So it's going to be a 2-1 win for Duel of the Fates.
Another thing I want to add that you can argue it's a bad thing, but in my opinion, it's a good thing, is when they're fighting Maul, meaning Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, they don't even know who he is.
Yes.
And to me, that makes it better. You could say that makes it worse because there's more emotion in the Battle of the Heroes battle. You could argue that, sure. But the fact that they don't know who they're fighting and what this guy is, they don't even know if it's a Sith until and after the movie, they don't even know. Yoda's saying at Qui-Gon's funeral, well, the whole line with always two, like if that was a Sith, like what was it? Like they don't even know. And to me, that adds to the battle rather than take it away. But I can see the other argument too. If you want to say that takes away from the battle, it's more important that the brothers are fighting Anakin and Obi-Wan. You can say that as well.
Yeah, PL, think there's really a wrong answer here to this question.
No, I mean, I Duel of the Fates winning, it doesn't make me upset. I think both are top two, and they both deserve to be there, and they both deserve to win on their own criteria. So it's sad that my Battle of the Heroes didn't make it through, but I mean, I'm not upset that Duel of the Fates is the winner.
Yeah, and Nick, I'll add here to the point here. I think we kind of all knew when the bracket came out, this is where it's going to end up here, but I don't think it was a worthwhile exercise to sort of acknowledge some of these other lightsaber battles we've had throughout the history of Star Wars, where we had some very wide range of different types of battles, all sorts of crazy stuff. So, like, it's the bar isn't set high, but I think we see different ways to try to approach it.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, when we started doing the bracket, in the back of my mind, I knew this was going to be the matchup, but in the back of my mind, I'm saying to myself, how do I realistically vote out Luke Vader episode 5?
Yeah.
Against anything. Like, I know these battles are better, but I'm just thinking to myself the whole time, how can I push it out? How can we get it out? We did get it out when Luke Vader episode 6, but that was always something on my mind was how is that ever going to get out? Because we've discussed this at nauseam in the last couple of weeks. Like, the choreography in 1980 needs to be excused because it was 1980, 1977, whatever it may have been for any of the original trilogy movies, where it's hard to compare. It's like comparing eras in sports. And we always say it's just a no-no. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But we ended up with the best matchup. We ended up with the 2-1 seeds, the two number one overall seeds. We got to see them duke it out in overtime with the tiebreaker with you. And honestly, bracket couldn't have gone better, in my opinion, in terms of how it went. And I will say, we're about to get the people's brackets here.
Yeah.
My lights are flickering. They stopped. No, they started again. But anyway, we're about to get the people's brackets, but I got to say that everyone that I asked had such strong opinion. Yet almost everyone had a different opinion, which was I thought was really funny how everyone's like, obviously this one's the best.
Yeah, so let's start with the people. You have the people vote on this.
Okay, let me pull it up because I don't have it in front of me at the moment. I am pretty sure Duel of the Fates won in a close battle, but let me just confirm that. It did. It was 57-43.
So about online with our vote.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead here. Also, I brought a couple of submissions from audience, from some friends of the podcast sent their brackets, and I'll share a couple of them on the YouTube version. What were some of the interesting points here? This is from friend of the Sky guys, Joe Simone sent his bracket in to me this week. So he went with Duel of Fates against Luke Vader in 6, and Luke Vader 6 winning. So he's a big Luke Vader Return of the Jedi guy. Nick, I think he wants me button.
No, I didn't lose the mute button. I'm trying to figure out these lights, and they keep flickering out of control. So I was on mute trying to turn them on and off, but I guess I'm just gonna have to live with it. Very interesting bracket, especially because I spoke to him in person, and this is not what he told me. But I guess when he actually sat there and filled it out, things changed.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. We talk about the importance of Luke Vader 6. Nice to see, Pete, that Joe recognized the importance of it as well.
Yeah. Really quick, did we give them the criteria?
Well, this is, I said, you're not giving them the criteria. He gave them the brackets and fill this out. How do you think?
Sure. So I'm curious to see if this is just my personal, what I liked better versus the criteria we used. And I'm not saying that he didn't use it or he wasn't thinking about it, but I'm curious to see why or how people got to their answers. If it's just I like that better because it's iconic or this, that, and the other. So I'm just curious.
All right, so let's get to. Well, I pulled another up here, Nick. You have any audience takeaways you want to give from people you spoke to?
Nothing's in particular, just as I said earlier, a lot of different votes that came in complete opposite of one another, and all of them were obviously it's this. Like, why are you even doing this bracket? It's stupid. The answer is A. And then I get the other person say, why are you doing this bracket? It's the answer. This is stupid. The answer is B. And it's like, well, that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, and were most people on the side of like one of the two big battles?
Almost everyone I spoke to had these two in the finals, but they made it seem like one of them was significantly better than the other, and it wasn't close.
Yep. So let me go another one here from the audience. This is a recovery room, Nick and Anthony Calvi, friend of the podcast, also worked together on a bracket. This is what they came up with here. So they
I
actually put
can't even see it.
yeah, they gave Battle of the Heroes the win to make Pete happy here. And interesting note here, Obi-Wan Vader from A New Hope made the final four for them.
See that
And
one I
actually,
can't get behind.
what's funny is Obi-Wan Vader on the previous bracket we looked at, friend of the podcast, Joe Simone's lost in the first round.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so that was an interesting takeaway here. It's like obviously Battle of the Heroes we get, but I guess they weighed the importance of this being the very first battle in Star Wars history that they felt it should make the final four.
I don't hate it. I don't agree, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, I do not hate it either. And I have one more audience submission I'm going to share. This is a friend of the podcast. Like you talked to him, I think back in a few years ago. Kevin Lewis talked to him about Andor, one of the episodes. So I popped this one up here. This is his bracket here. He did a different format here, but he went with sort of the same idea we did. He had Obi-Wan and Maul in the final four, and he went Ahsoka Anakin. So his is a little outside the box compared to the rest of ours.
He had that Luke Vader losing in the first round. Luke Vader 6.
Yeah, both Luke Vader's losing.
Yeah, but pretty much everyone's going to give you this same final matchup, and it makes sense. And I'm very happy with the way the bracket turned out.
Yeah. I also like the animated Obi-Wan Maul. So we saw three different brackets, three different finalists out of that region.
Well, what did I say about that region?
It's the weakest.
The weakest region, so there was definitely room for upsets.
Yep. So anything else you want to give away on the brackets before we tease what we're heading to next week?
No, a champion has been crowned.
Yep. A champion has been crowned, and we'll be back next week. We're gonna have a fun little diversion. We're catching up some content that came out during the course of this bracket. So we're gonna go to the world of Lego Star Wars, Pete. We're talking about Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxies. I call it the Star Wars What If universe, the first taste of it with Lego. So fun to see how that looks.
Very excited about that. Have not watched it yet, but we're going to be getting to it, and I'm curious to see how they did. Was it like 4 episodes or something along those lines? You said
They called it a four-piece special, which I was hoping it's four short episodes.
sure. So yeah, no, I'm excited.
Yep. So excited to get into this all this time. Thank you guys for coming on here. Really appreciate it. Nick, one more time. If you want to follow us on the Sky Guys podcast, how can I do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, TikTok.
Pete, if I want to follow you on social media, how can I do that?
At Concy29 on Twitter, CONSY29, AP Tyler 308, create the background I'm using here on Zoom. Make sure you check them out on Reddit.
You can also follow me on social media, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS 331. This is over on Just in the Suffering podcast. We'll catch you up on what's going on with the World Series here, Yankees, Dodgers, plus college basketball's coming, Nick. They're getting ready for that as well.
A little more interested in the first thing you spoke about than college basketball, but a little more interested in the World Series and the opening week of college basketball. But whatever you are more interested in, it is your podcast, Just on the Suffering. So please enjoy.
Yeah, so you'll have both. You'll have a choice of what you want to listen to.
I'll be listening to the World Series coverage. I
May
don't
win.
really know what to expect out of the World Series. Be happy regardless. I'm a Yankee fan, and if they lose to the Dodgers, so be it. I think the Dodgers are a better team, so I wouldn't be upset. But it'd be great to win, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, you can always keep that college basketball coverage in the back of your mind too. Be ready with that one when you're
Sure.
ready. All right, so we'll be back next week to talk about Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. But until then, may the Force be with you.